Whenever I take a flight, I'm always mindful of the weight of my luggage. The last thing I want is to be hit with a massive fee for exceeding the limit. So, when I was packing for my recent trip, I made sure to keep my luggage as light as possible. I had a few gifts to bring with me, but I thought I had managed to keep everything under the weight limit. When I arrived at the airport, I passed through security without any problems. Then I made my way to the check-in desk. The woman behind the counter looked like she was in her late 30s or early 40s, and she reminded me of my old history teacher. She gestured for me to come forward and asked for my passport. I handed it over and waited for her to check me in. Everything seemed to be going smoothly until she asked me to weigh my luggage. I put it on the scale, and to my horror, it showed that I was 50 grams over the weight limit. The woman told me that I would have to pay €50 for the excess baggage. I was confused and tried to explain that it was only 50 grams, but she was adamant. I felt frustrated and annoyed. I didn't have any carry-on luggage that I could use to make my suitcase lighter, so I didn't know what to do. But then, I remembered the 200-gram bar of chocolate that I had packed for my friend. It was still in its packaging and unopened, so I decided to use it to my advantage. I opened my suitcase and took out the chocolate. I started nibbling on it with a grin on my face, looking at the woman behind the counter. She looked surprised at first, but then she became annoyed. She told me to hurry up, even though there was no one else in line. I offered her some of the chocolate, hoping to lighten the mood, but she just glared at me. I shrugged my shoulders and continued eating. I must have eaten about a quarter of the chocolate, and when I weighed my suitcase again, it showed exactly 23 kg. The woman gave me my ticket and didn't say anything as I walked away. As I turned to leave, I wished her a good day, and she just scowled at me.
I used to work for a small private ambulance company, where we were a tight-knit team that prided ourselves on providing the best care possible to our patients. However, things changed when we got bought out by a larger corporation. One day, we received a directive from corporate stating that all employees were required to check their work email at least once every 24 hours, with no exceptions. As a part-timer who only worked a few shifts a month, this seemed like an unnecessary burden, but as luck would have it, I was usually the field supervisor on the shifts I did work, so I had a solution. I decided to set my work email to update at the same time every day on my phone, even on days when I wasn't working. That way, I could log 15 minutes of email checking on my timesheet to be in compliance with state and federal payroll laws. I also made sure to spread the word to my fellow employees. If anyone was too busy on a shift to check their email, I told them to do it when they got home and make sure to log it on their timesheet. It worked perfectly, and we were all able to stay in compliance with the corporate directive. However, after a couple of pay cycles, I received a call on my day off. The person on the other end of the line asked why I was logging 1.75 hours on weeks when I didn't even work. I calmly explained that I was simply following their corporate directive, and I was logging my email checking time on my timesheet, as required by law. That's when I was informed that I could no longer log those hours. I told them to give me that in writing, as it went against labor laws. Needless to say, the directive to check email every day was quickly revoked. But even though I was no longer able to log those hours, I still put down 30 minutes on my timesheet for the call. After all, it did take 22 minutes, and I wasn't about to let that go unaccounted for.
I recently had a chance to catch up with an old college friend who I hadn't seen in ages due to the pandemic. We decided to hit up a local bar and grill, and since we lived close by, we opted to walk instead of drive. My roommate and his new girlfriend joined us, and we all had a great time. As the drinks flowed, we chatted and caught up on old times. We stayed much longer than anticipated, and by the time we decided to head back, it was already dark outside. Since it was still hot, we decided to make a pit stop at the community pool on the way home. The pool was technically closed for the night, but we figured it wouldn't hurt to take a dip since it was pretty secluded and nobody was around. We stripped down to our underwear and hopped in, splashing around and having a blast. However, things took a turn when my roommate's girlfriend announced that she was uncomfortable with me wearing just briefs in the pool. My roommate asked me to change into a swimsuit as a favor to him, and even though I was annoyed, I complied. But as I headed back to the apartment, I had an idea. I remembered I had a Speedo from my college swim team days, so I put it on and headed back out to the pool, armed with a six-pack of beer. I made a grand entrance, announcing that I had changed into my swimsuit, dropped my towel, and dived into the pool with a wicked cannonball. My roommate seemed amused, and we all had a good laugh. We stayed out in the pool and hot tub for a while, chatting and joking around. The girlfriend eventually went to bed, but we stayed up late, enjoying the warm night and each other's company. It was a great night, and even though things got a little awkward for a moment, we all managed to have a good time in the end.
Back in the day, I used to be a furniture delivery truck driver, and I had a partner who was an absolute legend. We clicked right off the bat, and it wasn't long before we were working like a well-oiled machine. The only thing standing in our way was the warehouse manager, a real hard-ass who thought work was meant to be a miserable affair. One day, he implemented a new policy, the dreaded 2-hour window. Essentially, he would create a schedule for us, call up the customers, and tell them which 2-hour block we'd be arriving in. It was a complete nightmare. But on the first day, my partner and I kicked so much butt that we finished all our deliveries ahead of schedule. So I did what any logical person would do. I called up the next customer and asked if we could come early. They were thrilled, and I figured I'd try it for the rest of the day. By the time we got back to the warehouse, we had already finished our last delivery before it was even scheduled. I was expecting some sort of pat on the back, or maybe even a promotion, but instead, I got a stern warning from the manager. Apparently, I had broken the rules, and if it happened again, I'd be written up. Ridiculous. But my partner and I weren't going to let this new rule ruin our fun. We'd start the day busting our tails, flying through the deliveries until we hit our 2-hour window. And then, we'd take off for a while. We lived in New Jersey, after all. There was plenty to do. We hit up arcades, museums, and even the beach. The best part? It was all paid time. We weren't going to break any rules and get written up, but we weren't going to let the manager's policy ruin our fun either.
Please like and subscribe for more videos like this one. Thank you.